I'm Kelvin Gary, the owner of Body Space Fitness, and I'm just making this video today to answer a question that was on FitJourney from Tin Cup. And Tin Cup's asking what's a good exercise to increase flexibility for golf, right? So now a couple things to remember is that specifically for golf, you don't want to mistaken flexibility, right, for mobility. And one of the things he mentioned that there's a lot of twisting and rotation. We also don't want to mistake lumbar rotation and twisting in your lumbar for thoracic spine mobility and hip mobility, right? If you have enough hip mobility and you have enough thoracic mobility, meaning shoulder blade moving around the rib cage and the right glenohumeral rhythm in your shoulders and scapula, you can actually get more rotation if you have mobility in both of those areas, right? So a couple of things that I'm going to talk about is not just flexibility, but doing exercises that help you tune into that hip mobility, thoracic spine mobility, and transferring that energy from your lower body to upper body through your trunk, right? So two of the stretches that I always give a lot of my golfers, one thing I really want them to do is stretch their hips and make sure their hip flexors are stretched. At the same time, I also want them to make sure that they stretch their pecs, because a lot of them sit at a desk all day long, or they do something where they're forward a lot and they're really tight internally and have poor shoulder mobility. So we do a lot of stuff to work on shoulder mobility. And then two of the core exercises that I give them are push-pull exercises using a cable where we go horizontal, making sure that we are kind of honing in on that hip rotation that we want to get, as well as low to high rotational pulls. And I'll show you an example of both of those exercises. So again, the first stretch that I always give a lot of my golfers is a hip flexor stretch, right? So we're going to come down onto one knee, take my right hand, go up, and I'll turn the side a little bit, and simply shift my hips forward as I'm reaching as high as I possibly can. You should be feeling a good amount of stretch in your psoas there, right? So we get a good amount of stretch there. Same thing, switch sides. And you can even add a tilt, twist, put something behind you to bring your foot up to kind of make it more of a quad stretch as well, but really make sure that you're getting your hips nice and loose. Finish that off with some hip openers. Right? Again, we're going to be doing a lot of rotating into our hip. So making sure that you do hip openers to make sure your hips are nice and open after you do that stretch will be awesome. Second stretch I usually have a lot of my golfers do is a pec stretch, right? So you can do so by grabbing and holding on to something, right? You can also do it by taking your club or a band if you have it, kind of going behind your head and back over, getting up, turning, right? But you want to make sure that your shoulders are nice and open so we can get your shoulder blades moving around the ribcage. First exercise that I mentioned, horizontal cable, pull and push. Now I want you to really focus on not what I'm doing with my upper body, but what I'm doing with my lower body and upper body at the same time. So I'm going to start by facing the machine, grab it both hands, I'm going to pull it into the center, pivot, and now pivot out and push out. Right? So pivot and push, pivot and push, right? Good, right? So I'm transferring that force from my lower body through my core to move that cable using my upper body. I'm doing a pulling exercise, right? So it's going to help me work on shoulder mobility and strengthen the muscles in my back. The second one, it's going to have more of an angular pattern to it, which is that angular pattern is again what you kind of want with that golf swing. Here. 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 Last but not least, just going to do a split stance chop. Now this would be great on both sides of the pattern, but if you're a left-handed golfer, it would be good for you to go from right foot forward, or a right-handed golfer, left foot forward. Here, right? I'm just going to demonstrate what a left-handed golfer would do. I'm going to come here, twist, back up, twist, back up. Making sure that I'm turning into my hip, turning in my thoracic spine, and back up. Making sure I keep my arms as straight as possible. Now working on that down pattern. Right? So again, that's here. And I can pivot on my back foot as well. Right? So, those are a couple stretches and a couple good exercises using a cable machine that I would give to most of my golfers.